Hello again, friends. Will Davis Jr. here with 40 or so lessons from the Old Testament. I hope you're enjoying it. You can always send cards, comments, questions, complaints to Senior Pastor, srpastor at acfellowship.org. This is day 12. I'm going to talk today about the Patriarchs. As you read into Genesis, you get Abraham, and you get this long story all the way through, really chapter 50, with Joseph rising to power in Egypt. The whole story of Genesis beyond the first 11 chapters is about Abraham and his descendants. And the three major descendants, or kind of major forefathers of the Hebrew faith and of the nation of Israel, are Abraham and his son and his grandson. He had many, many kids, but three specifically that we talk about. The dating of the patriarchs, the fathers of the Jewish nation, is going to be around 2100 BC to about 1800 BC, somewhere in there. The Exodus is dated at around 13 to 1400 BC, and they were enslaved 400 years. So if you work back, we're looking at 17 or 1800 or 1900 BC, 2,000 years before Christ, for the period of the patriarchs. And they are patriarchs indeed. But I love the humanity of these guys. So Abraham, we've talked a bit about. Abraham was not perfect. He had faith crises. Even though he's a man of faith, he made mistakes and told lies and was trouble. But he also honored God, was willing to offer up his son Isaac, who was the promised one. And God protected him from that. Isaac is Abraham's son from the promise. He had another son through Sarah's servant Hagar, who became Ishmael, the father of the Arab nations. But Isaac is the son that was the son of promise that the nation of Israel would grow through. And then Isaac had two sons, Esau and Jacob, but the biblical promise was that the younger Jacob would lead the older Esau. They were literally just a few minutes apart in birth, twins. So these three characters, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Jacob's son is Joseph. He has many, many sons. His youngest and favorite was obviously Joseph, the favorite child. Everybody's got one. Those three, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, make up what are known as the patriarchs, and really the fathers of the Jewish race. And again, chapter 12 through chapter 45, 46, somewhere in there, tells their stories of Genesis, the first book of the Bible. Now, what I love about this, sometimes I'll sit in a meeting at our church, Austin Christian Fellowship, and we'll be laughing about something funny or silly or whatever, and I'll go, and we're the leaders. This happened at an elders meeting recently. We were laughing at something, and I was like, this is scary because we're the people in charge. And what I love about these patriarchs is they're human. They really mess up bad. I mean, there's deceit, there's lies, there's corruption, there's lack of faith, it's just a mess. And so a couple things I want to tell you about the patriarchs, just by way of applying this to our lives. I love this about the Bible. The Bible has not tried to hide the humanity of its heroes. Like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are great leaders and great men of faith, and they are indeed the forefathers of the whole Hebrew nation and ultimately the church, because the church is spiritual Israel. But dude, that's funny. They are a hot mess. They're a hot mess, and they're in trouble, and they struggle, and they have infighting, and they lie, and they go to war, and they make mistakes. And the story of Genesis, those chapters telling these guys' lives, is woven, just filled with difficulty. Which is the second point I want to make, is that God's work in the nation of Israel and God's work to reveal himself through Israel to the world and ultimately through the church is inseparably linked to humanity. Okay? God did not work this in a vacuum. I remember teaching back in Christmas time around the genealogy of Jesus and how the genealogy of Jesus is filled with misfits, like the Island of Misfits toys, but this Island of Misfits humans. They're a mess. And so the history of Israel told in Genesis is filled with difficulty. And it continues, obviously, after Genesis, with lack of faith and struggle, etc. So we have three patriarchs, the patriarchal age, AD 21, BC 2100 BC to about 1800 BC, maybe somewhere in there, before the captivity in Egypt. Great men, great leaders, great families, not perfect. And they're the leaders they're the founders of this nation that God chose to set up to reveal himself to the world. That gives me great hope. That if he can use the patriarchs in all of their fallenness, then he can possibly use me. And as a leader, because I'm equally fallen. Really encourages me. So meet the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We love you, Lord. Thank you for this time. Bless my viewers today and help us to be men and women of God. And thank you for using us in spite of our humanity, our Genesis 3 nature. And I pray this in your name. Amen. See you tomorrow.